here from my home in lovely Ligonier, Pennsylvania. Hopefully, y'all are doing all right out there. Um, I am putting on Instagram right now, and William's keyboard had run out of juice, so I had to wait for it to charge up to do that. So, I know, I kind of almost didn't come on tonight. But you know what? The thing is, and this isn't a surprise to anybody, but we have a certain way that um, we vote, and you can all imagine that it did not go according to our plans. So, it was a hard day, especially for William. For me, I'm kind of just numb and used to it. So I don't know what that says. But anyways, I was tempted to skip tonight because I know there's a couple folks out there who are probably in the same kind of boat and feeling a little bit down. But that's the time that we need friends the most anyway. So I kind of rallied. I didn't We had a plan for stuff to sell, but I'm not really gonna push that tonight. We're just gonna hang out, maybe make something fun, and just spend time with each other. And hopefully that's a nice little perk if you're able to muster it. I know we have the creative make along plan for tomorrow, so if you're not into it tonight, we'll have more opportunities to hang out and make stuff. I see a couple of folks are watching. Suzanne is watching. She says hello, everyone. Hi, Suzanne. Susie's watching. Hey, Susie. Suzanne says, I'm cooking dinner now. May step away later, then come back. Well, thank you. I don't really know how this is going to go. Wednesday nights usually aren't a pop-in night for us anyway. Um, and I can't imagine that with everything going on, that it's going to be like super slammed. But oh well, whatever. We're here now. Amanda's watching. Hi, Amanda. DominionMovement.com is watching. Hi. Or .org, rather. Um, yeah, so we're here now. Hopefully y'all are doing all right and hanging in there. That's the thing that I've been telling folks is hang in there. I know some of my friends are very concerned about the future, and as well as you should be. Um, but for me, we've had so much progress in our lifetimes, um, that I don't know. I'm just used to the rug kind of being pulled out from underneath me. So I'm not super surprised. But anyway, I'm not gonna dwell on that because I'm sure you all have enough of that in your lives right now. Um, yeah. So Vanessa is watching. She says, "Hi everyone, beautiful day here in Dallas." Laura says, "Hello, hi Andrew, and fellow people in the digital sphere." And Dominion says, "Understandable." Yeah. Laura was over on Instagram and says, Hi, Andrew. I'm going to switch to YouTube later. Oh, good. Um, I think that's Laura over there. I know too many people who are called Talisman. Nancy's watching. Hey, Nancy. Yeah, so I thought today we would just kind of hang out and make stuff and talk about life and be there for each other. So if you want to hang out with me, please do. I'm just gonna work on, I think, a bracelet. I don't know what I'm gonna do. lots of beads to pick from. That's one nice thing about having a shop is there's no shortage of beads ever. And then I'm gonna just kind of let things guide me the way that I need to be guided at the moment. I've kind of sorted out a plan. I don't know if it's gonna work because, um, I don't have very many purple beads here. I don't know what's up about that, but um, so there you have it. So I'm going to. Oh, our friend Tracy over on Instagram. How's it going? It's been a minute. Um, we'll turn the camera on. I know that wasn't very much time. She says, "Hello, Andrew." Um, Usually I'm over here talking for half an hour to an hour or whatever. I'm gonna plug my phone in and we'll flip things around and put this down here. Tracy says, "I wish we all could say it was better." Yep. Yep. So you'll see the ceiling for a moment. And then we'll slide on down. That's too low. I don't have enough space. And then we'll flip the camera. Okay. Back camera. All right. I think that's good. All right. So here we are. We're going to hang out. I'm going to put, these are some size 11s, I think. Japanese size 11s. Whoop. That's more than I wanted to get, but there you have it. And boy, I poured out a lot. Let me corral these for a moment. And normally when I'm working on this, I don't like to work on like a fabric type thing like this because it's easy for the needle to get stuck. But that's what we have. So I'm going to use that. I'm going to turn the light on though. Is that too bright? Too bright? I don't know. It is bright. Let me put this other one here. That's even brighter. That's good. All right. I'm going to put some more. These ones, these are some little orange ones. I'm not going to pour out as much. And I have some more orange. But it's a lighter color. And here's some yellow. Let's put some green. This one's got an AB finish, y'all. Some of those look tore the heck up. Oh wow. That's like the leavings pile, y'all. Let me see about that. And then I've got a blue. I've got a pretty light blue. I have a green too. Another kind of blue green. Anna's watching over on Instagram. Hi, Anna. This one's pretty. Y'all can't see. Let me switch the camera settings. Camera. Ultra wide. There we go. And then we'll put some blue. And try not to spill this all over everything. And then let's put, ooh, it's stuck to the palm of my hands, y'all. Susan says, hello, Andrew and everybody. I abbreviated that. She actually said all this, but I abbreviated that to everyone. Oh, Glenn's watching over on Instagram. Hey, Glenn. Glenn is a super talented artist out of Pittsburgh. I took his Japanese raising class over at Touchstone, and that was a really wonderful class. If you ever get a chance to take a workshop with him, I definitely recommend it. Let's see. I need purple, y'all. Where's the purple? Usually my workstation, I have a mix. I'll show you. It's like this. It's a big, like that. I mean, that wasn't the best view, but you know what I mean. Susie, our neighbor, is watching. Hey, Susie. Yeah, so busy day here. Well, William was more busy than me. He went out and interacted with other people. Me, I just hunkered down and did most of my work online. I'm in a show that's coming up. It's at Bottle Works, and I feel bad that I haven't promoted it more, but that's coming up. I'm going to drop off my pieces this weekend, and it should be up until the beginning of January. So if you're interested in seeing that, I'm going to post some of my collages that I've made. And let's see. I'm going to use some Fireline tonight. 6 pound, y'all. And I'm just going to cut off a wingspan. And somebody says, y'all don't have wings. How come you have a wingspan? But that's what it's called. I didn't make it up. And well, I got my cutters. So when I use these cutters, I don't actually go like that. I kind of close it up a little bit, and then I slide it like that. And I find that I get a cleaner cut, because otherwise it's kind of janky and doesn't want to fit through the needle. Anna says, hello, I'm here now. Instagram isn't as friendly to me today. It's too distracting. Dale's watching. Hi, Dale. Let's see. Where's the needle? I guess William didn't find it with his foot the other night. Let me see. Usually I have needles kind of hanging out, and they're stabbed into this fabric. But I don't know. I'm not seeing that right away. Oh! The bag broke on that. On those green beads. It's William telling me psychically not to talk smack. Message received, beloved. So I'm gonna look for a needle. Usually I have a needle. I thought I brought one up. But yeah, so that's happening. If I were a needle, where would I be? Probably sticking out of a project. So here's this one. It's empty. Michelle's watching. Hey, Michelle. She says, watching from my computer. Let's see. I need to clean this area. We had the holiday show over the weekend, and so there are literally things piled up sky high. All right, here's a needle. This is a great big long needle. Well, here you go. We're gonna use what we got. And so yeah, we're just gonna hang out and make some stuff. Michelle says, just gonna say hi to everyone, not the best typer yet. Yeah, I always kind of say hi to everyone because I always miss somebody, and if I miss somebody, then they get their feelings hurt and stuff. So, hello to everyone. All right. Oh, Charlie's watching. She said, my needles hide in projects in the floor. Yeah, you know. That's why I thought William would find it by stepping on it, but he didn't do it. All right, so I'm just going to put on this stop bead. Let's see. I got this white one. This needle is extra long, so whenever you do a stop bead, you just string on a bead, and then I'm going to walk it up. I'm going to give myself a little bit of a tail so that I can do something, and then I'm going to put this back up through the bead. That's going to be my stop bead. Generally speaking, I don't like to use a stop bead if I don't have to, but I'm going to put one on tonight. Nancy says, your needle is massive. I know. This is the only one I could find. So I'm going to put 2 red, one of these oranges, one of these light oranges. That's 4, 5, 6. These ones are all chewed up. Boy, that... I can tell those aren't the Japanese ones. Let me see if I can find maybe something else to use, because those are pretty gnarly, y'all. I'm going to put that down now, string these up. So far, I've got this 2 red, an orange, a darker orange, a lighter orange, and 2 yellows. And then, how many is that? 2, 4, 6. So I'm going to put some green. I was going to use these ones, but they look all chewed up. So we're going to see about that. Let me see if they're all like that. Yeah, those are super gnarly. You know, that's the thing with beads. Sometimes, depending on the company that makes them, sometimes they can be less than favorable. Charlie says, hi, everyone. All right, let me see about finding... This is a green. This is a good green. I'm going to scooch these up and out the way. And then I'm going to put on some other ones. Boy, is it hot in here. I'm tempted to... We have the air conditioner. I'm tempted to put the air conditioner on. And then if I could find a purple, that would be great. Put the purple in your mind, and we'll try to find it. Here we go. It worked, y'all. All right. Amanda says, how would that happen to the beads? Well, not all beads are created equally, Amanda. So sometimes you get beads that are they don't grade them out, and so they get a little bit chewed up style because when they cut them, they don't do a good job cutting them, and then they just put whatever in. All right, so I'm gonna put one of these. That kind of is a abrupt transition. I'm gonna look for a lighter green real quick. I did like this green color. It's nice and bright and a good transition between that. But you know, it's a little bit the beads aren't very good. So I did find these ones out, and these ones are a little bit better. Either I should have put use that tray instead of sprinkling that all over like glitter. Um, I had to open the window, y'all, because it was awfully hot up in here. Especially under these lights, they do get a bit toasty. But otherwise, if I didn't have the lights on, it'd be like y'all be looking by candlelight, and that's not ideal. So I've got that, and I have the sea foam. I'm gonna just pour this out. So I like that. All right. So we've got this, and I think we're set up. So I have this. Let me see. I'm gonna put one of these, and then I'm gonna put one of these on the sea foam, and then I'm gonna put one of these metallic blue, and one of these light blues. How many is that? That's 4, 5, and 6. If I had a really purple, I would put that, but I'm not gonna hunt around for that. A little rainbow, y'all. How about that? Y'all like that? All right. So next thing we're gonna do is flip this work over, pick up one purple bead, and then go through, skip this one, and go up through just this one. All right. Notice I'm keeping the tension kind of firm, and that's so that my beads don't go everywhere. And I want those to be kind of side by side. And we're going to move them up. All right. Next thing we're going to do is pick up one of these light blue beads. We're going to skip this light blue bead and go up through that kind of metallic blue. All right. And It's gonna make like this. So I'm gonna pick up one of these seafoam beads. I'm gonna skip this one and go up through that bright green bead. And then it looks kind of like this. Looks a little bit chewed up. I always think with these seedweed projects, they always look a little chewed up until you get a couple rows in. I'm gonna pick up one of these yellow beads. I'm gonna skip the first yellow and go to the next yellow. And then go up through just that one. Once we get this kind of situated, it'll be a little bit easier. Because it's always this kind of first steps. And I'm using smoke colored Fireline. But you can see it's already tightening up. All right, so I'm going to pick up one of these light orange. And then I'm going to go up through this darker orange here. And I can tell that I'm using beads from all over. I'm not just Miyuki. I got all kinds in here, so they're all a little bit different sized. I'm gonna adjust myself so that Tracy said, "Are you making a bracelet?" Yes, I'm making a bracelet. Oh, Diane is watching. Hi, Diane. And Julie's over there as well. I'm gonna pick up one of these red beads, and then I'm gonna skip this one and go up through that one red bead at the very end. That's the first one we did, y'all. All right. And this is going to form the first kind of row and a half of these. And hopefully not get tangled, which I seem to have done. All right, so I'm going to untangle this by... one thing about if you feel like you're getting tangled, just stop what you're doing, kind of take a beat, and undo it. But sometimes I know, like, you get something doesn't go according to plan and you get a little bit frustrated and you get upset, and it doesn't really help. All right, I'm gonna flip my work over. And so this is what I've got so far. Don't look like much, huh? But we're gonna keep working and that's gonna help. All right, so what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna pick up one of these red beads and I'm gonna go up through that one that's sticking out. See that one, that red one that's sticking out? I'm gonna go up through that. And I'm gonna try to keep my tension somewhat tight. It kind of got a little bit garbled up there, but that's okay. I'm gonna pick up one of these darker orange beads, and then I'm gonna go up through. Dale said you're doing peyote. I'm doing even count peyote. I'm gonna go up through this light orange. Even count peyote, I think, is the easiest. I'm gonna pick up one of these yellow beads. Suzanne says she's back. What'd you make for dinner? That's always an important question in the Thornton Jones household. I think we're having spaghetti tonight again. And I'm going to pick up this light green bead and go up through the seafoam bead. Seafoam. And then pick up a metallic bead. And go up through that. Suzanne says corn chowder with bread, ice cream. That sounds good. And I'm going to pick up one of these purple beads and go up through that. I think sometimes, it's hard to see things um, right now. It's all kind of a mess right now, but bead by bead, it will grow and we'll make it work, right? So then, whenever I get to this, I flip this work over and then start again, begin again. All right, so I'm going to pick up one of these metallic beads and just go up through here. I don't know how this is going to turn out. I don't usually do pattern work like this. And I haven't taught this in a long time, to be honest. I used to teach this in the class all the time. People would come in and walk in and want a project, and we would do it. I'm going to try to start that back up. There is a place in town that we were going to start doing classes with because they have a little bit more space than we do. But unfortunately, they just listed their business for sale a couple days ago. So, looks like a good business. I don't know why they're selling because they haven't been open that long. But I don't know. I understand if people are tired or they want to do something else. It's hard sometimes to keep things going. I know for us, it's not been super easy with everything going on, but we just make, you know. And I think that the business is called Craftwork Studios. It's right on the main kind of drag of Johnstown, so the space would be good. I'm picking up one red bead, going up to the next one. Once you get peyote stitch, kind of, once you get that situated, it's pretty. You just kind of fill in the gaps. At least I think that's what I think about. I think of it like they have all. It's got like a structure that you can just plug in then. So, anyways, that's just available for sale if anybody's looking for a business in Johnstown. I don't know what the rent is. They're leasing, so I don't know what that all entails. But it's 20,000 for the business, which for that spot is not too bad. If we were in a different position, I would definitely consider it. I love our neighborhood in Moxham, um, but I also know, we don't get the same kind of foot traffic that others do. So, but we're not really in this position to be looking at more businesses or more retail. I think it's one of those times where we gotta kind of buckle down and work on the fields we already started to plow. So trying to add to the farm. I know that didn't make any sense, but there you go. Sandra's watching. Hey, Sandra. Well, how have you all? Well, I don't know. How has your night been? I guess I don't know. Hopefully, even with everything going on, y'all are doing all right. We worry about y'all, and that's one of the reasons why I'm not really in the mood to do this, but I wanted to jump on so that we have this going. Dominion says, "Your words of wisdom, kindness, and humor are always appreciated." Well, thank you. I think one of those things that we're going to need each other more than ever now That's the thing. I know William, he was like, "Let's all move to Portugal." I said, "You know how much of a pain in the butt it is?" I mean, it would be nice. I always think about that. Like, I'm gonna be like the under the Tuscan sun, except William would be there instead of like free for all time. Um, but you know, Lori said, "I love what you're healing with beading and extra points for rainbow colors." Well, I'm trying, you know. Uh, the rainbow is such a lovely symbol for a lot of things. Um, in Christian kind of belief, they have what's called the rainbow's promise, and that's, after the flood, there was a promise with the rainbow that there wouldn't be any more floods. Um, but for me, I am a gay, and so the rainbow has all kinds of meanings. Dominion says, "Beautiful choice of colors. What are you gonna make?" I think this is gonna be a bracelet. I don't know. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking maybe I would do like an amulet, like kind of little baggy thing, so that I can put little things that are important to me so that I can carry them around with me. But I think it'll be good to have a nice kind of little reminder of things. Susan says, "Watching you is very calming to me." Sarah says, "Are these seed beads?" Yes, they are. You can do this with other beads if you want. Sometimes the tension gets kind of wonky on bigger beads, but you just go through a couple more times. I'm using Fireline right now. Generally, when I'm doing peyote stitch, I don't tend to use Fireline. I usually use like Nymo, or one of my friends. She's got me kind of interested in trying out some KO, and that will it's designed specifically for seed beading, and so maybe, I don't know, we'll see. Dale says, "I like to make peyote bezels for crystal rivolis." Yeah, I think that's a good idea. I like peyote stitch. I think it's very calming. It's one of those things where, once you have, um, once you do the first couple rows are always like the hardest, in my opinion. But once you get that down, then you just kind of drop things into place and they all lock together. Dominion says, "If you are using wire to string, it could be bent to form a little rainbow." Yeah, no, this is Fireline, so it doesn't really work like that. But um, I mean, you can. I mean, I guess you could always try to do increases and decreases with this, but it's a little bit more challenging to do that. You can't. I mean, I guess you could try to bead weave with wire. Um, I know you can bead weave a little bit with flexible beading wire, which is like soft flex. That's a braided steel with a nylon coating. But rigid wire is a little bit different. Um, and going in and out and bending at these kind of angles, what will happen is that it will get brittle and eventually break. So, um, yeah, I don't know about that, but I mean, if that's your intention, you can always figure something out to do. there's always a way of figuring stuff out in beadwork. I think that's one of those things, why it appeals to me, and sometimes it's kind of vague, is that, I taught a class recently in Winston-Salem, and people would say, "How do you do this?" And I'd say, "Well, you could do it this way, this way, this way, this way, this way." And I think sometimes it's hard because, it would be easy if there was one answer for everything, but, there's a lot of different ways that you can do the same or similar things. And I think as making stuff, you realize that you kind of have to figure things out. Like, it's just one of those things where you start working and maybe it doesn't work, but you can always try a different way or come up with a different solution. So there's always a way. Um, I think that's a good reminder for people is that there's always a way forward. Sanders says, I'm actually relieved for this live after today. Thank you. Well, I'm glad that we could be here for you and the rest of our community. I think it's important to hold space for each other, because there are so many people who want to divide us and keep us separated because it's easier that way. And what I realize is that community is so important, especially when you're having a hard time or crisis. I think we're conditioned oftentimes not to ask for help. I know I was told to, when I was growing up, to bottle it up, push it down, get through. Don't ask for help, just do your own because um, help wasn't reliable. And that's a coping mechanism for trauma. So when we can ask each other for help, that's where it's it takes a lot of courage to do that. And it's one of those things that you can count on each other, hopefully, and build those connections with each other, and we're stronger together. I know that um, I'm a stronger person because I have William in my life, and I'm lucky to have him as my husband. And I feel fortunate that we're able to have that. I think a lot of people were scared, particularly in this election, because they're worried that they'll lose their rights, their equal rights to be married. Um, I know some people were kind of upset when marriage equality passed, and they said it should be left up to the states. And the thing about that is that if it's not equal everywhere, then it's not equal. It's still second class citizen. So, that's the thing about a lot of these things is that they're not necessarily equal. People think that just because you can that exists somewhere means that it's possible. Um, so I don't know. There's a lot of stuff that we just don't know until it happens. And, I think the default is to go to the worst scenario and think, oh my goodness, what's going to happen? And that's when you kind of have to like remind yourself that, we're strong individuals. We have a lot of possibility for goodness in our hearts, and we can do a lot together. We can be the force of change for things. The thing is that we're looking at a structure that's designed specifically, this is not um, theory or my opinion, but it is a system that's developed so that certain people prosper and others are workers. I mean, if you don't have that system, then that doesn't necessarily work um, for the way that we're living now. And, people kind of act surprised that s- things happen the way they do. And I know it kind of sounds sad, but, that's it's designed this way. There are people with a lot more power than me or you that are orchestrating certain things to be a certain way. And it's because it makes them rich. And, I don't know why they feel like they have to amass the wealth that they do. It's, always surprises me. I know that, like, if I won the lotto or was in some different position, I would probably give most of it away. But, that's me because I grew up poor. So I know what it's like to struggle, and I don't want the people in my life to struggle. So I don't know, I see people who are um anyway, so the whole point of me saying that is not to be doom and gloom, but to remind people that we've always been powerful, but in a quiet way. And I know that that may not make sense, but who were the healers before? You didn't. It wasn't the rich landowner. You know, if anything, they were targeting those who were outspoken and made their lives hard. But the people who stood up for each other were, your peers, your network, your those in your community. So, you know, there are a lot of things that we're going to have to kind of wait and see about. And I don't know, it's going to be hard, but I feel like we're lucky to have the people in our lives that we do. And it's I feel really honored to be able to make art. And to live my purpose. You know, Not everybody is so lucky to be able to do it. It's not always easy. I think um, there are some days when I fantasize about getting a corporate job somewhere and kind of having a regular, stable paycheck. But I also know that I wouldn't be able to do the things that I would like to do as much as I do. Um, and it's fine. Some people they want to have a security, and I can't fault anybody for wanting security, especially when things are so uncertain. But at the same time, I feel really lucky to be able to do what I do. I feel like the world needs more beauty, and you know, we need to add that beauty and whimsy, and that will help combat some of the ugliness and the nastiness that we see out in the world. And we're able to be there for each other in a positive way. It's hard to be positive all the time. Sometimes you have to scream and shout and rent the clothes, as they say. I'm not renting my clothes. Renting. I don't know how you say that, but that's where you tear the clothes because I don't have a lot of clothes to be tearing. Maybe if I put on some of my work rags, which is pretty much all the clothes I have. Then I'll tear up them, but or I'll ask Gertie. She likes to claw up stuff, but in a sweet and loving way. So if you're just tuning in, we're just kind of hanging out tonight. I'm working on an even count peyote stitch bracelet, maybe a necklace, who knows how long. But I thought it would be good to get together and kind of just make some stuff, hang out with each other, be there for one another, hold some space. I had a different plan in mind tonight. I had a selling show planned, but I thought this was more important. Um, we do have to have selling shows, because that's how we survive, especially right now. But um, you know, tonight we're gonna take the night off and just hang out, and make stuff. We are planning to get together tomorrow night for Creative Make-Along. So if you want to be online and hang out and not just hear me talk, then you can hang out with us. William's gonna post a link. Maybe I don't know if he posted it already, but he'll post that tomorrow or tonight or whenever. Dominion says your leadership and kinship is greatly appreciated. Well, thanks. I never really thought that I would be in any kind of leadership capacity. I never really thought much about how my life would go. I didn't even think I would live this long, to be perfectly honest. When I was younger, there were some real dark days. Um, but I persevered and hung out. I hung in there, and there are a lot of good things. And I feel really lucky to be able to have done the things that I do. There's a lot of really cool things that I've been able to do this year, to go places and learn from people. And I feel really fortunate for that opportunity. That's not something that I ever thought I would be able to have. Before the pandemic, all I kind of thought is how to grind away, just keep going, grinding. When the pandemic struck, we were kind of forced to think about what we wanted to do with the rest of our lives. And, I had, I don't know, I say, but maybe you don't know, but when I left my BFA program, I got a degree in painting and mixed media. And I wanted to keep going, but, it was hard. I had to work and pay my bills, and I wasn't really in a position to go. And I actually applied to one program and I got rejected. And at that point in my life, um, nowadays I get rejected all the time and it's not a big deal. But back then, I was a little bit sensitive about it and I got rejected. And I kind of was like, wow, I'll just work for a year and try to save up some money and pay down some of my student loans. And we'll revisit this idea. And then 1 year turned into 2 years, then 3 years, and more. And then it turned into a decade. And I never went back to get my MFA. And so I kind of was, at the time I didn't really think, I thought I knew what I knew and that was good enough. And That was fine. I could have kept going and doing the things I was always doing, but I wanted to be able to, go back and learn. And that's when I started taking classes at places like Touchstone. Um, and Touchstone will forever be in my heart as a very special place because it was one of the first places that I was able to go back and learn more about craft and how to do things. And it was lovely. I mean, it opened up my eyes to a lot of wonderful things and people. And I feel extremely blessed to have had the opportunity. I won some scholarships and was able to further my craft education that way. And yeah, I was able to go to a bunch of different places. I took classes locally here at Contemporary Craft in Pittsburgh, at the Center for Metal Arts in Johnstown. It was I my one of my first classes I took was at the Center for Metal Arts. I took a week-long workshop with Erica Moody, and it was a utensil making class. And I was a little bit nervous. It had been the first time that I had been back in kind of that arena in a long time. And I felt really, um, out of my depth. And there was the first day we did some forging, which is really hard. I think sometimes people like you heat up some metal and you hit it, and then that they kind of boil it down to that. But there's a lot more into that than a lot more that goes into that than that. And it had been the first time that I had kind of really taken that kind of workshop. And I had taken a bottle opening workshop the week before because I did not want to go into this week-long workshop with absolutely zero experience. So I took a bottle opener class there with Carrie and oh, what's his name? Savage is their last name. But they were very kind, and it was during mask time, so it was kind of interesting because at one point he went outside and he pulled down his mask to take a drink, and he had this full mustache underneath his mask, and I was super surprised because sometimes at that point there were times when I knew people and had interacted with people, but I had never actually seen their face. But that was a different time. Anyways, I went and I took those classes, and then this is what we've made so far. Um, and that started more classes, and I work really hard to get a lot of scholarships. And I always encourage people to, if they are in the position and need it. I went for years and years thinking that I could not learn or that I wasn't good enough. Um, and that I, was not talented enough, or that there were more deserving people and that I didn't need it. So I deferred to other people who I felt were more talented or more deserving than I was. And so, sometimes you have to get out of your own way. I had somebody tell me at the workshop, they said, "How could you ever doubt yourself?" And I said, because I'm human. And I think that that's something, I'm not infallible. I have doubts and I have things that I'm working through. We talk about generational trauma a lot, and, that's something that is a real thing. Whoop, I spilled some beads. Oh well. I'll pick them up later. I need to sort out the office. We're making such good progress on cleaning up the office, and then the holiday show kind of got away from us, and um, it's kind of clustered now. But, anyways, if you ever are in a position and you're like, I don't know if I'm good enough to um, have a scholarship or whatever, you know, I would suggest just trying. You may get rejected. I get rejected a lot. Um, and That's one of those things where, when I was young, that used to bother me. Um, but now I kind of just think that it's like a numbers game, really. You have to put yourself out there, and maybe you get it, maybe you don't. And I think a lot of the opportunities I've had recently, particularly, are because I made the first step in deciding that, I was good enough for the opportunity, that I was enough just the way I was. And once you make that decision, even if you get rejected, you still win. You still have something when maybe you win, maybe you don't, but at least you'll have done the first step forward. And just that belief in yourself that you're worthy, that you're good enough, that you're worthy enough of what you want in this life. I think that matters. Anna says, how do you deal with that rejection? I've always had a difficult time with that. My self talk is not as advanced as yours. I am very hard on myself. If you ask William, um, he'll tell you that I am my hardest and worst critic. I went to art school where there were crits, and we were at that time, it was not like a nurturing thing. It was, how can you break somebody down? And people used to keep track of how many people they would make cry during critiques. It was almost like a blood sport. I mean, not really blood. It wasn't like we were actually cutting each other, but people were really cruel to each other. And they said, well, you have to have a thick skin. And I hate that thing because it's like, how thick is thick? Because there are people who are intentionally cruel to one another just because they can be. And that's not delightful. But anyway, so I grew up in that time period, and when somebody says, "Well, I'm going to be brutally honest, and I'm going to say some things that may hurt your feelings," and I said, "You know what? There's nothing you could say about my work that I haven't said about it to myself, and 10 times worse." And when I was growing up, we did not have emotional regulation, and we did not have positive talk about each other. The most I could hope for was that's not terrible, or usually that doesn't look like shit. Um, and that's the kind of thing that I grew up with. Like my mom, she would say, when she'd introduce us, she would say, "This is Andrew. He is lazy, and his head is big, and he has big crooked teeth, and he has acne." And that would be my introduction to a new person. Was that was how I was introduced to people. And I grew up gay and not really knowing about what that meant because all of the media and role models, there weren't role models. I did not have any role models. We about being gay. All the gay people I knew were from the news or they were dead, you know. So that wasn't like I had like supportive people who I could look up to. And when I looked at people around me who were successful or in love or anything, they didn't look like me. They looked like, they looked square, chiseled jawline and blonde hair and blue eyes and white skin. And they looked like my dad. They did not look like me. And so I always kind of had this, uh, you know, it's kind of like you're looking in a funhouse mirror and everything's distorted to the worst possible thing. And you're looking through somebody else's eyes of how they see you and not how you see yourself. And so there was hard times when I felt very insecure and very like I could not understand. I didn't think I was worthy of love because I did not see love and I did not see people who look like me be in love without consequence. I grew up during the end of the AIDS crisis, which, still there's no cure officially. Um, and it was kind of a death sentence if you were gay. And so I did not have a lot of self esteem. And I had always thought that I would not live very long. And because people were cut down far too young and far too often. And so I had to work on that a lot. As far as getting uh, as far as like becoming okay with rejection, I don't really have a lot of good self talk. Um, to be honest, I wasn't raised that way. So, what I had to realize is that I had to learn to love myself. And that's the root of it. Now, as far as this bracelet is concerned, I'm going to cut off some thread and add it to my project. I've got this fire line, the 6mm fire line. I'm going to cut off a little bit more than a wingspan because I'm going to tie this up. And so I'm going to show you. I don't actually use it to like this. I bend it like this and then I put it in here like that. And that way I get a nice clean cut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add my thread. And so I've got this, I don't know if you can see it, but I'm going to give myself a 3 or 4 inch tail. I'm going to wrap this around 2 fingers and then push it up through that loop. And this is called a slip knot. I don't know if you can see that because this background's pretty dark. And then I've got this needle. I'm going to put the needle through the slip knot. I'm going to hold this stationary and then pull. And then I'm going to hold this down a little bit better. hard for me to even see. And then I'm going to do this until I hear a pop. Did you hear it? I heard it. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take the needle off of this tail. And I'm going to find the two short tails, and I'm going to make a surgeon's knot. So I fold it over and then go through again and then pull it nice and tight. Whoop, not too tight. And then I'm going to let these hang out. So what I do is I take the shorter ends and I kind of caress them and so that they go over to here. And so I will hold this off to the side while I'm working, and then that way they don't get tangled up, because if it gets tangled up, it's nightmare time. And we don't want that. Suzanne says she heard it. Oh, good. And then at the end, I weave my stuff in. Sometimes if I'm making something really long, I don't actually weave it in until later. Or if I make something really long, I'll weave it in earlier. But you have to have a couple rows first, because if you just try to weave it in right now, sometimes that messes with the tension, and that can be problematic. But when you do, like Anna was saying about, Laura says, successful in driving back to mom's. Oh, good. Dominion says, I know how that's like, though, too. I think sometimes, as far as when we're talking about rejection, there's a lot of times when there are things outside of your control that you don't necessarily have control over. When I applied for the MFA program, I was lucky enough to talk to one of the people on the admission or the selection committee. And, that's a rare thing. You don't always get to have the opportunity. And what they had said is, they're like, you're a very capable artist, and we see that you have some skill and that you have a lot of room to grow. However, at that point, I was making all abstract art. And they said, the group that's in right now, they're all figurative artists. And the reason mostly why I was an abstract artist for a couple of years is because all of my teachers were all abstract artists. And so I was very strongly encouraged to work on their style so that we could, not necessarily in their style, but to work in that way because that's what they specialized in. So I worked with Stephen Westfall and Uta Kother, and there's a lot of different people who were abstract artists, Michelle Mayer, or Melissa Mayer, and Cheryl Donegan, and there's a bunch of people who I work with who are abstract artists. So that's how I learned, or I went to my BFA program. And I had actually started out as a figurative artist. So it was interesting to go back and realize, I think that's one of those things for my own self, I needed to forget a lot of things, and get back into the joy of making stuff. Because at that time, I kind of was like, I have voices in my head, not in like a schizophrenic kind of way, but in a way that, when you learn something, you have that in the back of your mind. It's like you have somebody, like, I don't know about y'all, but I carry a lot of people around with me in the sense that, like, if I see a beetle, an iridescent beetle in artwork, I know my friend AJ Riordan is gonna like it. So I usually take a screenshot or whatever and send it to her. Or if I see bats, I send it to my friend Dawn because we talked about bats one time, and I said, forever onward, I'm gonna think about you when I see this. Um, Tracy says on Instagram, it is meditative watching you bead the rainbow bracelet. Thank you for doing this tonight. Well, hopefully it helps. I don't know if it helps others, but it's helping me. So I'm just going to keep doing. And all I know how to do is do for me in the sense of what works for me. There's a lot of with different ways people are coping right now with certain stuff going on in the world. And, not everything works the same way for everybody. For me, I know that for me, I'm a fixer. And what that means is not that I'm like getting rid of bodies or whatever, like fixer in that kind of way, like mafia style fixer, but is that if I know somebody is who is hurt or in pain, I'm going to try to do what I can to help. Um, you know, some of you may know this, some of you may not know this, but we helped start the Great Bead Extravaganza during the pandemic. Me and Sarah were talking one day, and we came up with the idea of the concept for the Great Bead Extravaganza. William and I are no longer in the Great Bead Extravaganza, but how that came to be was from a simple conversation and the desire to help others. Because we looked around and we saw so many of our friends having a hard time, and they had to have close their businesses or change their businesses or do all kinds of stuff, and we wanted to help them. And so we came up with this idea, and I think we did help. I can hope that we helped. I know there are a couple people when I met some of the people in Tucson one year. They had said, one of the customers that came up to the table had said, you saved my life during the pandemic. And I was like, what? Who, how, what? And she had said, during the pandemic, when I was locked down, I had suicidal thoughts. And, I did not know if I was going to live or die. She had told me about how she had people in her life who had passed away, and it was a really hard time for her. And that the beating that we had shown her, I mean, she said she's not going to do everything that she saw, but the beating that she did see and the things that she did make helped her kind of ground and center, and she was able to find a path forward. And, that really moved me because a lot of times especially if you've ever done anything like this, that you're basically talking to yourself. Um, and as an artist, a lot of times you're in that position too, where you don't know if the things you make are going to have an impact. You're sitting in your studio by yourself. Maybe there's an audiobook or something, and it's playing in the background, and maybe it's something that touches somebody or moves somebody, but you don't know that. And so, I mean, a lot of my practice is kind of lonely in the sense that I spend a lot of time alone, and um, that can be both good and bad. Like, I've grown to enjoy it, so I actually like to be able to have time to myself to make things. But I know that some people, they find it very difficult. And also the self-discipline, because you have to be disciplined um, to be a professional artist. You just have, I mean, I know some people, they front like they're not disciplined, but the at the end of the day, you have to have work to be able to sell. And um yeah, that happens somehow. Like, if it's not, if you don't make it, who's making it? So you do have to have that fortitude to kind of stick in. um Laura says, for anyone who's interested, the USPS is some enchanting button style forever stamps with wonderful graphics and messages of love and peace. Oh, that's nice. Dominion says, you have a very healing presence. Well, thank you. I feel like when we heal ourselves, we help heal the world. Angela says, hello, friends. It's a rainy night in Georgia. Feels like it's raining all over the world. I think, I don't like to be wet, so I don't know how real this is going to sound, but um being, sometimes it's good. The rain helps nurture the land around us. It's what keeps life going. Sometimes it's not fun to be stuck out in the rain, but it's needed. I keep getting them stuck on my hands, y'all. This side. I need to reposition this real quick. I'm gonna set this one on. I'm gonna reposition that real quick, and then we'll be in a little bit. All right. I think it's important though. Sometimes it's good to have, to have those rains. Right now, it doesn't feel good, but I think for a lot of people who are suffering right now or having a hard time, it's good to remember that you have people around you that care about you and genuinely want the best for you. They want you to be happy, healthy, and whole. They want the very best for you. And there are people in your life, whether you know it or not, that sincerely wish the best for you. And I think that's so important to remember that. Because it's easy to get down and feel like the world is really hard. And when people are very open about their hatred or um, their short-sightedness to think that their way is the only way, um, you know, um, it can be very discouraging. I think it's one of those things where, it's easy to hear the negative. It's less easy to hear the positive. Um, Susie, our neighbor, says it's been dark and gloomy here in PA too. Yeah, it's not been yesterday. It was like bright and sunny in the 80s, and then today it's been kind of overcast, and sometimes that's I think a reflection of our moods, whether that's a real thing or not, but at least for me, I don't know. I know some people are delighted and happy right now. Well, good for them. I mean, I wish them well, but you know, at what cost does that come? So, Anyways, you'll know. And it says, I have to remember that this too shall pass. Yep, this too shall pass. But also, I think it's a call to action. It's a call to remember our strength. It's a call to remember that we're not alone and that we're not islands, but connected, an archipelago. And that when we heal ourselves, we help heal the world. I think that, anyways. I don't know if other people think that. I'm not Jewish, but there's a concept that it's, I'm probably saying this wrong, but to call Kalum, and that's probably, I butchered that pretty hard. But it's the idea that our purpose in life is to heal what's broken in this world. And it's one of those things that even though that's not my personal belief system, I find a lot of beauty in that. And it says, yes, look for ways to help. And Susie says, no man is an island entire in of itself. Yeah, it can feel like that sometimes, but we're not. We're connected on some level. So here's what I got so far. We've been talking for about an hour and a half, and I've got maybe an inch and a half. Let's see. Just more than an inch and a half. So depending on, your wrist size, if you're going to make a bracelet, you have to factor that in. Like an hour an inch. So, 6 hours? 7 hours? We'll add a clasp, and that usually will take up some of that time as well. Or not time, but take up some of that space. But yeah, so that's what I've been working on. Is anybody else working on anything? Let me know if you are working on something. And Suzanne says, I made bales this way. Yeah, you can make bales, you can make rings. There's all kinds of things. I like even count peyote a little bit better than odd count. Odd count, I always find that step at to be a little bit of a challenge. So at the end of the row. But that's one of those things where the abstract thinking helps in the sense that you can imagine many ways. Dominion Movement says, I think Mr. Rogers said that look for the helpers. The show sometimes reminds me of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood. Suzanne says, waiting for the make-along tomorrow. Susie says, I've been sorting beads. Dominion says, I want to make some Christmas ornaments for gifts. Normally I draw. Well, there's a lot of ways to incorporate drawing into other things. One of my goals was to develop a way to incorporate some of these different facets of my life So when I was in school, I went to school for painting and mixed media, and then I got involved with the DIY jewelry making sector, and I mostly focused on stringing, and they always seemed a little bit out of sync with one another. Like they fit, but they were a little bit out of sync with one another. So, part of me is kind of how do I merge these different facets of my making? And, you know, that has been something that I've been trying to work on for the past couple of years. And I think I've been able to do that with adding my drawing to different things like with enameling or even dye sublimation. So I don't do. William does the dye sublimation. Um, Suzanne says, right now I'm watching you and petting cats. Vicky says, can't watch TV, can't do social media, too overwhelming. I'm sorting beads and a ton of unfinished projects. Susan says, getting together things for tomorrow's make along. It will be a necklace, plus I have a few earrings planned. Um, and Anna says, making some components. I got a lovely package today from Allegory Gallery, so that was fun to open. Dominion says, 1 year I did use drawings and mixed media for making ornaments or other gifts. Oh, good. Oh, I think William's home. At least I sense it. I don't know if he's actually home or not. But yeah. I think this is one of those things where I didn't really know. I had an idea of what we were gonna do tonight, and I just wasn't feeling it. So I decided to do this instead. And if you watch the beginning of this video, then you know that it kind of happened organically. And yeah. Um since I'm so behind in getting Christmas presents together. Yeah. We're always, I feel like, running behind. But luckily there is time, you know. We started pretty early with our holiday push because for us, we work with a lot of people who make stuff, and so they need it earlier rather than later. And that can sometimes be hard. I almost got tangled up, y'all. Um, the ends are always a little bit tricksy like that. Um, Sandra says, just love this community. Well, thank you. Our neighbors are doing something that live directly next to us. I have the window open because I was getting roasted. And so it was nice to be able to cool off. It's a beautiful night out as far as like temperature, but it's blaming hot up in this room. So there's that. I think it's nice though. Like at first when we moved here, I didn't know because um, we had lived in New York City, and in New York City, you kind of are just like on top of each other. It's just like being packed in, and sometimes that's good, sometimes it's bad. Um, And then when we moved to Pennsylvania, we lived on 90 acres. We rented from William's aunt, and so we were off by ourselves. And so when we moved into town, I didn't know how I would feel about having neighbors so close, but it's something that I've grown to like, in the sense that if we ever need help or anything, there's always somebody nearby. But sometimes that's hard. Howdy, William.
Hello. How's everyone?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm okay.
What'd you do today, William?
I made some vessels.
Good.
I trimmed some of mine from last time.
Did you bring anything home?
No, nothing is done.
One
of my trees has been bisqued, but I didn't even get a chance to glaze it today.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I trimmed some of my vessels and I made some more. I wanted to make things instead of glaze today.
That's good.
Yeah. Ooh, it's warm in here.
You tell me, bro. I'm over in short pants and a t-shirt. I'm still roasting.
Yeah.
Last night it was really hot too.
Yeah, me too. It was warm in the house. We took all the air conditioners out, so there's not even like fans in the window or anything to turn on.
Of course.
So how's it going? Making a bracelet?
Maybe.
You
never know how these things will go.
Maybe a pin?
Maybe a ring.
Maybe a ring.
Be done faster.
How's everyone out there doing?
Suzanne said it was 87 today. Ooh. That's cool for y'all.
That's cool.
Y'all are usually like, oh, it's 110 and this raining frogs.
What was our high today? 71. It felt warmer than that.
It feels warm right now.
It's supposed to be 64 right now.
Is it really?
Yep. But it's raining, so it's humid.
Suzanne says, ha 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 ha.
It's really humid out there.
Dominion says, hi, William.
Hello.
Vicky says, we got several inches of snow today, but it's toasty in my makeshift studio.
Makeshift studio?
Where do you live again, Vicky? I thought you did not live in the cold country part, but... Dominions. Andrew's been helping us process life.
Good.
I'm glad to help.
Help everyone process.
We'll make peyote search, even count peyote search. Oh, Cindy's watching. Hey, Cindy.
Which Cindy?
Instagram Cindy.
Oh, from Johnstown.
I'm
like, which Cindy? We've got like 3 Cindys at least.
I mean, 8.
8.
You'll have to come over, Cindy. Come to the cottage.
I know. Cindy stopped by to talk about that again, too.
Oh, really?
I'm going to talk with you about a schedule and when she can come over, when we can do stuff. She's ready.
Good.
She's on it.
She says, hi, Andrew and William.
Hello.
Yeah, you were going to tell me something else, but you said you had to talk to me and took pictures or something, but I can't remember.
Me?
Yeah, you said that.
Oh, I got to show you Patrice's stuff, too. I took pictures.
Good.
Yeah, we're going to do that. Just been so crazy.
Dominion says, I was living in Colorado last year. I missed it in some ways compared to the Midwest. And Vicky says she was in Colorado. I think I knew that, but when I used to do the packages, I knew where everybody lived, but now. And this is okay. I found a bright spot to dim in the dim of the election. I get my governor back. So I was really looking forward to the first Native American governor. She's lieutenant governor currently. Oh, um, I'm trying to think of all the races that are happening. There's some, I know a lot of people are upset right now, and rightly so, but there have also been some smaller elections that went favorably. There are also some that did not go favorably, and that's kind of disappointing. Summer Lee didn't get reelected, and that kind of is a bummer. But, there were people who were very against her because she is a part of the squad. And so they targeted her pretty aggressively. So then says maybe I'll move to Colorado, get some snow. I don't know. It depends where you are. Sometimes it's have the most sunshine, even though the temperatures are not. Isn't Denver, they get the most sunshine of like any U.S. city?
Oh, really?
Or maybe San Diego. I don't know. I'm making stuff up.
Well, you always gotta be making stuff up.
And it says Tim Walz is governor of Minnesota. Dominion says Missouri voted to put reproductive rights in the state constitution, but also elected Trump, I guess. Vicky says true, Andrew. Here you go. I don't know. This is what we're doing. We made a rainbow flag.
That's cute.
I always think about this. Like, if you feel like you're adrift and you don't have a purpose or a way and things seem hard, just pick up some beads. I joke about it. I talk about how, like, vampires, I'm like, you know what? They would have so much more, like, they would have a better quality of life if they just took up crafts. And I think that, and, I'm joking about it with vampires, but for people, I think it's so important to have that, even if it's something that you're not going to do all the time. I think nowadays we're so pressured to monetize everything and, make money off of everything we do. And, that's the world we live in. But at the same time, it's okay to make stuff just for the sheer joy of making it. And, there's so many things that, I don't know. I think that it's good, and to be okay with sucking at something. I think everybody thinks that, I have to be like awesome at everything. But I think that there's something wonderful about just making stuff, and if it works out, it works out. If it doesn't work out and it looks terrible, then that's fine too. I think that a lot of times it's very end goal oriented, not necessarily about the process. And it says, exactly, Andrew, the sheer joy of making it. Vicky says, I don't know, vampires might have a hard time beating in the dark. They got lights. They can turn on, and supposedly their vision's supposed to be really great. So, live forever.
Crafts forever.
I know.
Art forever.
And if you invest wisely, you can also have disposable income, so you could just like buy whatever you wanted. Wouldn't that be something?
Yeah, and it's not like you don't need the money for food.
Maybe you have to pay for your side piece to get a little bit of snacky snack, but
maybe you don't. Maybe you should.
I don't know.
Have to.
You know, nowadays on the internet, you can be like, "Who wants to get drunk up off of?" And then I'm sure there'd be somebody.
So all you gotta do is play with your money in the market if you want to make money. What do you need money for?
You know, have somebody else do
money
it.
For housing.
Have somebody else do it. You just focus on making stuff.
Right.
Maybe you can't eat solid food, but depends which ones you go with, which vampires you're talking about. Some vampires, they can't eat anything. Like they get the blood shit.
Some tastes awful.
It tastes like ashes in their mouth.
But if you never had to worry about eating, like sitting down, cooking a meal,
or going to the bathroom.
Yeah, think all the time you'd say.
You know, that's one of the questions that we have every day. What are we having for dinner tonight? Well, what if you didn't have to worry about that? You just worry about crafts. What am I gonna make tonight?
What if it was just a packet of something in the refrigerator you had to drink?
Oh, he's like True Blood.
Right? There you go. Done. I mean, that was a whole thing too, but
Angela says, so glad to be able to make. That's good. Dominion says, I worked at an arts and crafts store for years and loved helping people with their projects. Susan says, we also passed Proposition A, which increases the minimum wage and adds paid sick days. Well, that's nice. Suzanne says, I saw my new tattoo design. I'm getting a wizard frog. That's cool. Sandra says, my kitty could beat in the dark. That'd be cute. I want them to all do crafts and do chores. I love the AI cats that do chores on Instagram. Dominion Minutes says, wait, what is the advice again? To do crafts. That's the advice. That's always my advice. Do something, make something. I think people who make things are able, for the most part, to believe in a better world. Because what's the point of making if everything is just going to be nothing and be ruined?
Mm-hmm.
Then that's nihilism, I guess. So the act of making is radical defiance. It's something that it's radical hope. The belief in something better, of making something more. And so sometimes it can feel like we don't have any power in our lives, that we're just something small and irrelevant. But, you know, we're machines of manifestation in the sense that we're taking an abstract concept and going from head to heart to hand, seeing a vision make real. And whether or not we do it full time or as a hobby, we're just to try it out. I think there is the step, that decision to make something and do something. And that step is a monumental one because some people are afraid to do it. I mean, I can't count how many times I would be in the store and have somebody tell me that they could not do because they were not creative. They say, oh, I'm not creative.
I hear it all the time.
And I'd be like, do you get dressed in the morning? And they're like, yes. So you got a favorite color? Yes. Well, you're creative. Sit down, shut up, make something. No, I didn't say that, but I should have. Maybe. I'll start a new dominatrix creativity. Suzanne says, we don't have those kinds of cats. The ones that do chores. I'd like that.
Oh, it'd be so nice. Get to work, kids.
Suzanne says, Nancy, do your cats do chores? My cats don't do chores. They're lazy freeloaders. But they pay with cuteness, so I guess it works out their compensation. So I had a kitty who was a painter. He stepped in a paint roller tray and ran around the house. I ran around after him to clean up. Great memories. Nancy said no, her cats are entitled. Tallulah would love to be my little painter buddy, but I don't want to clean up the mess, so there's that. Cindy says someone out there would pay for Creative Maker Dom. I bet, and I would be great at it. Because I'm how you call blunt about things. We are watching this thing called Reacher, and he is really blunt about stuff. And I'm like, is he on the spectrum? And it's like, if he's on the spectrum, maybe I'm on the spectrum, which is probably real. Not that I'm like Jack Reacher or anything. Maybe if I did the CrossFit, I looked to see if William was smiling, but he wasn't. Tracy over on Instagram, she says, one of my cats I like to claim is quality control. The older kitty is judgmental. Well, that's needed too, I guess. Susan says, oh, Anna, that's not funny, but funny. Vicky says, my cat was a princess. I had to catch the bugs for her. Suzanne says, my cat supervised when I bead. Tallulah wants to supervise, but she also wants to steal. So there you go. And this is my other kitty used to work by catching mice. And it says no mice in the new place. Oh, good. I sometimes think about bringing a cat to the cottage because we have mice there. And
Reggie.
I know.
And I'll have to go feed them every day. Every morning, run over to the cottage, feed Reggie. Run over tonight, feed Reggie.
No. Maybe get automatic feeder.
Can't leave Reggie over there by himself so long.
How you know Reggie's a boy?
I don't know. That's just what came out.
Could be a Regina, short for Regina.
Gilbert wants a boy.
He said he's tired of sisters. They're always trying to jump up on him and love on him, and he's not into it. Maybe. We'll see. I don't think any of our cats have that killer instinct. Well, maybe Barnaby.
Barnaby, he's already killed. What are you talking about?
I know, but I kind of, he's not.
He's a little killer.
So this is the skin of a killer, Bella.
Oh, that chair's full. All the chairs are full up in here.
Which one?
Over there. I was gonna sit down.
You can clear it off.
I know. That's work. Oh.
Anna says, just bring them for a day at the cottage. I brought Gilbert and Barnaby once, not at the same time, and they, I didn't get anything done. I was too busy watching them, making sure they didn't get into trouble. We also want, and this is maybe, I like a cat hair free area in theory. So the cottage was supposed to be the safe haven for that. Kara says, my cat Josie is always very interested in my bead table. I tried to discourage her from jumping on the table. Yeah, we do too. Barnaby and Gilbert never used to go on the table. And then little sisters, they have trained them that it's okay. Like, they never used to beg for food either. Like, Barnaby never begged for food. Now he's kind of like insistent. Not with me, of course, because I'm the mean daddy. But with William, he's pushover daddy, so he gets whatever he wants from him. Me, I'm like, no.
It's true. I'm a pushover.
Not me. I'm like this. No.
Oh, is Cheryl watching? I saw her flat wire thing. That looks really good.
And then, which one is that?
Cheryl?
Which, her earrings she made?
Yeah, those flat wire earring those.
Well, she made those a while ago. I did a tutorial that was similar to that a couple.
I think it was just last night.
Huh?
I think that was just last night.
That she posted that?
Mm-hmm.
I did a tutorial on those horseshoe earrings a couple years ago. If you're interested in that style. I don't know anything about flat wire though, so I don't know what that's about. But those look really good.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying I'm trying to claim all the credit for everything, but and then Andrea's gonna be mad at me. What you said? No. I mean, it's not. I mean, it's just forming it into a U shape and then wrapping beads around it. Not to diminish anybody's work. Boy, I can't win with this.
I was going to say, you're just digging deeper a little bit, I think.
Oh, wow.
Like I'm used to.
Vicky says, I have an important question. If you organize your beads by color, do you put teal and turquoise with the blues or greens? My OCD has me immobilized. Just make its own container. There you go. Life lessons. Oh, Laura Lee Colton is watching on the Instagram.
Hey, Laura Lee.
And Tracy says, what is this cat hair-free area you speak of? Yeah, I know. We try our best because, you know, when you send stuff out, some people don't like to get the cat hair. Sandra says, I have a separate drawer for turquoise. Same. Bless you. Anna says, that is too simple. We have multiple drawers for turquoise because I let it so. Suzanne says, but cat hair is magical. You know, not everybody believes that. I do. Well, kind of within reason. You know, I think I'm really allergic, and every day I'm snorchy, and when I wake up, and I probably am super allergic to cats, but I don't care.
It's not going to change our ways.
No, not until my throat closes up, and even then, I'll probably get like a pen or something and stab myself in the throat hole. Remember when TV used to be educational? That was on MacGyver once, I think. He took a pen. No, I don't know what show that was, but I remember this show. They took, bless you, they took a pen, a ballpoint pen, and then they made a tube and then put it in the tracheotomy they gave them. Is that what that's called? When they poke the hole in the throat? When they breathe through the hole in the throat? Vicky says, won't they get lonely? I don't know. I think some of them would prefer not having as much time with me. Bless you, because I'm all the time. Come here, kiss my face, and then they'll
do that all the time.
And then they're like,
again, Daddy, again.
Gertie, she rolls her eyes now. I was like, how'd you learn that? You're not supposed to roll your beautiful, majestic eyes at me. There we have it. Suzanne said it was on MASH that happened. Was that on that?
It was on a lot of,
TV.
I'm sure it was on MASH. And I remember seeing it a few different times. People take the big pens and take the insides out.
Sandra says, an obvious answer, you need more turquoise. Correct.
Right?
Go get some, William.
If it doesn't fill the bin.
Yeah, you gotta make it. You can't have it partially full. You gotta have it overflowing with abundance.
But it needs its own place.
Correct. I'm gonna put some kits on the internet so that this year has been a little bit hard for us. Like I hate to talk about this stuff because it's kind of like I don't like to talk about it. But it's been a slower year for us because of a lot of different factors. Like we moved the store and it's going to take time for that to build up and yada 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 yada. Y'all heard about it. And William's job burned down and all that other stuff. So we don't have as much money nowadays. But tomorrow is Fate Gives, which is an annual fundraiser for Touchstone. And if you heard about some of the stories I talked about earlier about Touchstone, then you know that it's a really important place to me. I'm on the board at Touchstone. I sometimes wonder, I'm like, why am I on the board? Because I'm not rich people. But they said, oh, well, we need everybody. But and I guess it's good to have somebody to who's not rich on the board. But anyways, the fundraiser is tomorrow, and so I'm gonna post some kits, and I'll post this on my personal timeline. And if y'all buy the kits, then we'll have a donation for them. So in theory, I need to do that tonight or tomorrow morning so that we can collect the money before the end. Because I'd like to contribute, even if we can't contribute as much as we have in previous years. I think it's important to be able to add to the pot, little by little. And it says, yes, tracheotomy. I also learned about how to do facial reconstruction with pencil erasers from the MacGyver. And it was like, what if their face is not consistently fleshed? I learned a lot. I watched this show called Port Charlotte on the TV. It was like a soap opera spinoff from General Hospital. And I learned about cranial, what's that? Hematoma. And how if they have a buildup of pressure, then you have to go and use the drill and drill a hole in the head so the pressure can escape. So if you ever get stranded with me, you'll be in luck. I've watched enough TV so that I can do basic surgery.
But if you're expecting him to run anywhere,
no, I'm not. I'll be dead quick. That's like the ones we watched this one. It was like King Kong or something, and they run in between the dinosaurs' legs. I'd be dead like first. I've been crushed. That'd been a short movie. You never know though. Maybe I get like adrenaline. I'm gonna be like, come on, let's go. No, you never know. The survivor instinct kicks in. At one point, I wanted to be on Survivor. My parents and I used to watch that. And we didn't really me and my dad did not get along very well at that time period. But we could always watch Survivor together. And I was like, I could totally be on that show. And at that time period, maybe. but I was also much younger and much more sturdy. Nowadays, I would probably not last. It'd be too hot, and I'd be like, all right, too hot. I'll go lay down under the palm fronds, and then I get voted off my own. Also, sometimes I get sassy, so there you go. I probably didn't last very long on that show. It'd be another quick show that I got exited from. And be like, I would think that I was like I'd be like hard worker and be like, oh, here I gathered all this food and all these like things. And, but I probably don't last very long. They vote my behind off the island because apparently I'm not very likable. Believe it or not. That doesn't bother me though. But win $1 million, maybe they have to up the price. $1 million isn't what it used to be.
No, it is not.
Maybe.
You've got billionaires and nearly trillionaires.
I saw that and I was like, dude, what? Somebody, in the old time, they couldn't keep all that. They used to actually tax the wealthy.
Right.
And the wealthy had this like civic duty that they would like build. They would like show off by like who could build the best like library.
Right. Or train station or public service.
I was like, where did that go? Instead, you guys this person launching expensive cars in the atmosphere so they can burn up. And I said, I'm sure they're thinking of like, they're advancing science. Yeah, right. Whatever. Just wasting money. That's like Batman. When I like the idea of like superheroes, but there was always a disconnect for me because Batman was like super rich, and instead of ending systematic poverty, he gonna pay for a little outfit so he can get dressed up, so he can get his behind beat up, so that he can feel good about his generational trauma. I said, if you actually paid people living wages, guess what? They would not have the drugs. Or if you gave people health insurance, oh, guess what? And also, the villains in Batman, they're like Poison Ivy, all right? So maybe you should get a little bit of wackadoodle time. But she was over here trying to like save the environment from these people who are like trying to do toxic spills and stuff. Did anybody else watch with the Catwoman and then the hashtag #MeToo time? And so that dude deserved it. What were you doing protecting him? The villain wants clean air. Oh. Sure, so they had to go do shady stuff to get it. Wow. Who hasn't at this point? I don't know. More life lessons by Andrew. Vicky said they just need to know you better, Andrew. Hard to dislike you. I don't know. There's plenty of people who don't like me. That's all right. That's not my problem. I used to be more concerned about that and if people like me or not. I used to try real hard. So when you grow up the way that I did, you become almost fixated with being have people like you, because it's a trauma response. Because if people like you, then you are not a target. Then they don't want to hurt you. And so I'd try real hard to make people like me. And oftentimes compromise myself so that other people would like me. And you know what? I realize if somebody gonna hate you, they gonna hate you anyways.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter how nice you are to them, how much you do for them, if they don't like you, they're not going to just magically decide that they like you. So I'm over here running around in circles trying to prove myself, make people ingratiate myself, bend over backwards to get people to like me. And they just use you. So, you know what? I learned, nah, I don't need it. The people who's going to be my people, they're going to be my people. People not my people, get the hell out. I don't want you.
Oh boy.
I don't care. And that's the thing. AG Bead fam.
That's right.
Sanders said that's so true, Andrew. Anna says people pleasing, yes, same. But that's the thing also. Like, I tried so hard, so many times to make people like me. And that's what is that? How I learned this is I tried to get approval from my dad. I used to bend over backwards to try to make him proud of me and say that he's proud of me. And I used to have such horrible self-esteem because nothing I could do could make that man proud of me. And you know what? It was like I was never good enough. Nothing I ever did was good enough. And I always felt like I was not enough. And then when I finally realized that that's how you call unhealthy, was when I finally was able to start learning to love myself from who I was. And to focus on making myself happy. Because nothing I can say or do is going to make anybody like me unless they want to like me. There's nothing I can say to change anybody's mind. Suzanne says, heading to bed, didn't sleep well last night, hopefully better tonight. Thanks for a peaceful show. Good night, everyone. Good night, Suzanne. It's like the Waltons. Good night, John Boy. But, so, that's the thing. And, here's the other thing. I used to try real hard to get good grades. And, I would get straight A's and get extra credit and all this other stuff. Because I thought, well, maybe if I get really good grades, they're going to do it. They're going to appreciate me. Nope. And then I try to get attention by doing bad. And then that didn't work. So then I'm like, so what? So what is this? Who does this serve? It's clearly not me. Because no matter what I do, it's not enough. So who does this serve? That's not me. Do I feel better for it or just feel more terrible? And so there you have it. And then I started realizing that that's not the way. And the funny thing is that when I kind of let go, that's when things started mending in our relationship. When I stopped needing them and relying on them, that's when they finally kind of came around a little bit. So that just goes to show you that, you can do all you can to make somebody like you, and then still at the end of the day, it's not enough. Susan says, Andrew, I'm in total agreement with you. I wish I could get over the need for approval. Sigh. Dominion says, I like you. Well, thanks. That sounds sassy, but it's true. But here's the thing is if you like me, that's nice. If you don't like me, that's not my problem. And that was one of those things that was real eye-opening at some point, is that I had other people in my life who would control me by feeding off of my fears. And I let them because that's how I was raised. And I thought, well, you know, I have this, at least I have this. And I let them. And that's one of the things, like, I think about how much time I lost because I didn't really believe in myself. And I kind of let them do what they want, and I lost a lot of time because of that. But here we are on the other side of it. And, there you go. Vicky says, my motto for the last few years have been fuck 'em. Best thing about menopause. I'm quoting, so it doesn't count. Laura says, that's my superpower, I never caved or desired approval from anyone. I think that I have not been like that. I can honestly say that that's not been something that I had. And we had such a broken family growing up that I had tried really hard to ingratiate myself to certain people, because I thought, well, this is, we had a broken family, but if I have this relationship, then it must mean something is good. And so I tried real hard to maintain certain things, and they didn't really care about me. And they would oftentimes tell me about how they didn't care about me or my welfare or how I was doing. And they just flat out said that money meant more to them than my relationship with them. So, that was eye-opening for me because I had, up until that point, done anything they said, anything they wanted, or that they wanted me to do, I would do it. Whether it was good for me or not, I would do anything they wanted. They had complete control over me. And I just went along with it because I thought that was healthy, that was good. And now you learn, you see once you can kind of get distance from that, then you start to see that that's not the way. Anna says, that's awesome, Laura. And then Susan says, Laura, I'm a little envious of you. Yeah, I think one of the things that was a big change in my life was William. And one of the things, Sappy Talk, is because, when somebody loves you, and especially when you don't really fully love yourself yet, you can see through their eyes that you have worth and value. And it was really important for me because, I learned to love myself, but I think those kind of big lessons are ones that you have to learn and relearn. It's kind of like a process. It's not an event. You don't just all of a sudden have that realization and then everything is better. You have to learn to break unhealthy habits, and you have to learn to process emotions. You have to learn to have emotional regulation. You have to learn to be able to ask for help. You have to learn to acknowledge your strengths and weaknesses and be honest with yourself. It's not, you don't learn these things and all of a sudden everything is just done. Wouldn't that be nice? You learn once and it's,
That'd be so nice.
level up. The reality is that it's a process. And it's one that you have to continue to learn, invest time, and spend time with yourself to acknowledge, like to know. How do you know yourself unless you spend time with yourself? That's one thing. I get so distracted by stuff that I would say, oh, I know myself so well. I know myself so well. But I never spent time with myself. I was too busy putting out fires for other people to acknowledge my own mental health. And I prioritize other people over my own self because I convinced myself that I didn't matter as much as other people. And so, I think that's one of those things where, as much as I claim to know certain things about myself, I also acknowledge that there is a lot that I don't know, and that there's a lot that I'll never know, even about my own self. And that maybe other people can see more clearly because they're outside of who I am. I think about this where I use them use other relationships in my life as a mirror. And so when I look at other people and I see certain things in others, I can also see them in myself. And so I think that's one of those things that, it was hard for me to understand when I was growing up because, it always felt that um, I was alone in my misery or alone in whatever, and that I was so uniquely damaged that nobody could ever understand. But when I realized that we all have things, we're all human, we all have these issues, um, then the better I was able to learn and be able to identify those issues in myself. So, for instance, when I have negative self talk, one of the things I do is I say, what would I say to one of my best friends in the same situation? And generally speaking, I am much kinder to other people than I am myself.
Very much.
And so when it comes like a student, if a student doesn't understand something, I'm like, that looks like dog shit. Go, you're a terrible failure. You'll never succeed in life. To my own self, I sometimes say stuff like that. And I realize that is not healthy. So I say, what would I say to somebody else? What would I do to give them compassion? How can I be kind? And, you know, it's not always easy. It's hard sometimes to realize that, to step outside of yourself. But that's one of the things that I use to learn how to be a little bit more healthy is to actively imagine that I'm talking to somebody else instead of myself. Laura says, basically, I was picked on from being Asian in school, but it never really affected me. I always just sneered at them. I was a teenager when I confronted my parents for their decisions. Um, and she said, I was just born with a justice gene. Some people don't have that, or they've had that taken from them. The sense of what's right and what's wrong, and what's good and what's bad. And they're tricked into believing that they're somehow at fault for other people's misbehavior. Hey, can you hand me a napkin? You probably should get a chair anyway. Because you're...
How long are you going to be yet?
I don't know. We've talked for 2.5 hours.
I know. I was going to get something to eat. I'm getting a little hungry.
I mean...
I'm getting stuffy in this room. I don't know why.
All of a sudden, my nose started running.
Yeah.
Anna says, I understand that I'm much nicer to others than myself, and that Justice Gene feels like it only applies to me fighting for justice for others. Well, when we heal the world, we heal ourselves. Just as when we heal ourselves, we heal the world. So, when you find yourself struggling with kindness for yourself, think about kindness that you show towards others, and believe that you're worthy of the same grace that you extend to others. Because that's the thing. I think of it like this, is that our emotions are our teachers. And, what are we meant for this life? I don't think that we're meant just to like work and pay bills and then we die and that's it. Like, what's the point of life? What's the meaning of life? And I kind of feel like we're put on this life, in this world, to, whenever I do something, I ask a question and then find the answer. And whether or not the answer is clear right away or it's something that I have to work towards, that's kind of how I feel like life, There's a question and then there's the answer. And so what are emotions then? Are they just like a useless byproduct of our brains and chemicals firing? Like, what does that teach us? So I kind of think of it like, when we feel anger, why do we feel this anger? If we feel sadness, why do we feel sadness? And what can we learn from the sadness? I saw somebody say, some people are put in our life for nothing. They're just, everybody's trying to find meaning, and meaning is like a saboteur. It's like a false prophet that says, like it tries to put the spin on things. They try to find the silver lining, and sometimes there's no silver lining. But, I also think, I don't know about that. I think that that's one way of seeing things. But I also think that there's also another way of seeing things where, there's things around us and they bother us because they're speaking to us on some level. And, there's something to be said to like shut yourself off from those messages. Maybe it makes it easier. I don't know. I try to listen to the messages. I don't know if that is good or bad or whatever, but I try to look for like the why of it. And I've realized that when I understand the why of things, I am better at it. Like when I don't understand the why of something, then sometimes it does not make sense. And if it does not make sense, I'm not interested in it, or it causes like a rankling. I don't know. And it says, I'm trying, I'm learning. Well, that's all you can do, right? You can do your best and hope that others will treat you with grace as you continue to try to learn and better and improve yourself. And hope that that they understand that you're on a journey. Like one thing that happened at some point in my life that gave me a lot more clarity is I used to kind of hold my parents on this pedestal. And if you ask them, they'd say that never happened. But I used to kind of I would be harsh with them because I had this like expectation of what a parent should be, right? Like I'd watch these movies or read these books and they would act a certain way because that's the way it was. It was like they were your parent and they had to love you and they had to do all this other stuff. And like sometimes I would get really so mad at my dad because we grew up poor. And when my brother left, they hired these private investigators to try to find him. And it was really expensive, and they did not have the money to hire them. So there's always this thing where they would do these get rich quick schemes to try to make money so they could find my brother. And I think at some point they just started doing these get rich quick schemes like Amway and Shackley and Malaluka and Quest and all these things, all these kind of pyramid schemes. And I would get so angry. I would say, you're not going to make any money off of this. These people they're showing you these videos of these people jet setting and the life of the rich and the famous. And that's not us. You keep wasting this money, whatever money we do make, you're just burning this money. And I would get so mad. And what I realized much later is that they did that. My dad did that because he had a lot of guilt. He had guilt that he was unkind to my brother and that it caused my brother to leave. We didn't have money, so he said the only way that you're going to go get an education is if you go into the army and they pay for the military and they pay for it. Because that's what he was told. My grandfather said that to him. He said, you don't have any money. The only way that you're going to get ahead is if you go into the military. And my grandfather was in the military, and that was the message that was told to him. The only way to improve your situation is to go into the military, and that was the only way. Well, sometimes the military is not designed for everybody. There's a lot of things that there's issues. And at that time period, my brother had experienced a lot of racism in the military, and people were very unkind to him, and they would do things to him. And, it didn't make him want to be a part of that anymore. And there's more to that story, but it's not my story to tell, so I'm not going to talk about it too much. But the thing that kind of opened my eyes to a lot of stuff is that, like, I started to see my parents as just people and not as, not as these, like, creatures that were special, that had to, like, live these roles that I had made up in my mind, and that they were their own people with their own problems. And once I realized that, it kind of it helped a lot. I mean, it still wasn't perfect. It took a lot of time and effort for us to rebuild a lot of our relationships. One of the things I also realized is that my parents didn't have the vocabulary to discuss problems. They did not grow up in a time with emotional regulation. They were of the we don't talk about problems. We don't acknowledge that we're in pain. When my brother disappeared, there was a lot of shame and a lot of problems, and we couldn't talk about these things. Like I didn't have anybody to talk about the grief of losing a sibling. He eventually came back, for those who don't know, but Larissa, to me, life is like an airplane emergency instruction. Put your own oxygen mask before you help anyone else. And she says, I'm missing a few letters, but you get the gist. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, like, if you want to help others, you have to be in a position to help you have to help yourself in order to be able to help others. Laura says, I'm so happy to see how you've come into your own power, Andrew. Well, probably more than a lot of people, because, my family, some of the things that I've had to overcome and deal with without being too specific. But, I think there's this thing where, you know, I do feel like there was this pressure from a lot of areas in my life that, uh, you know, that I had to do certain things to make up for the fact that I had been deeply damaged and did not realize how much of a toll that had taken on me. Um, and so I let stuff happen that under normal circumstances I would never have let happen. But that's hindsight. And like Anna said, I'm still learning and I'm still growing, and I'm still learning about boundaries. And that's such an important thing for me. Anna said, Laura, my ex-husband used to tell me that, but he was using that statement to excuse his own behavior. I think that's hard when people take, something that's designed to be well-meaning and they twist it. Well, it's like I can't tell you how many times I heard family first, and they would use that excuse for people to do terrible things and just be complacent in letting those terrible things happen. And the idea is nice. The idea is a good one. However, people who are intent on abusing you, and I don't know, Anna, if your ex-husband abused you or whatever, but in my situations, people would use certain things and abuse me mentally and emotionally and sometimes physically, because and they would use these things and I grew to hate them. Like, there's this thing called Father Knows Best, and I used to hate that. And I think that's one of the things that was super hard. When you are you're projected these messages, and these messages are supposed to be ones that are supposed to be good, but then they're used in a way that are not good. It creates this weird kind of reverberation where it's hard to process that. It's hard to deal with that kind of situation. I don't know. At least it was hard for me. Some people are a little bit, they have this thing about them where they see BS and then they don't fall, like they're just like their BS meter. They can read a room and then they're like, whoop, and then they're like, I'm out, and they can do that. I don't have that, or I'm working on that. But a lot of times I'm like, let's see the best in people. Let's try to try to see the best in people. And then they would, take an inch, take a mile or whatever, give an inch, take a mile. So there you go. Laura says, Anna, that's the rub. This thing applies to everyone, not just him. Anna says, right. The ones you love are not supposed to hurt you or manipulate you, etc. But that's the thing, is like, that's what we think should be the way. People who love you should not hurt you. But that's not always the case, as we see in this election. I know a lot of people who they tell me, I love you, but then they do things that are going to openly harm me. And, one of my friends said, I care about you and William, but I also want my gas to be 15 cents cheaper. And so, they don't really care. That's the thing. They don't actually care, I guess. Or maybe they can care, but then rationalize that 15 cents a gallon is worth more than my ability to be married to the person who I love. I don't know. I don't know why they feel the way they do. Or I try to think about like this, it's easy to other people and just say, like, make people into the villain. It's easy to do that because that's how we're trained as a society, to other people. They're the enemy, they're the villain. But, I've been on the other side of that. I've had people say that I'm the villain and that I was the problem. The problem was me. And so, like, I know what it feels like to be othered. And I know what it's like not to understand something or not be the best at something, and then realize in hindsight that, that I was wrong. And I think that's something that, it'd be easy for me to say, oh, well, all Republicans are bad people, all of them, all of this. It's a way of making myself feel better. But what happens when somebody goes through life and then they realize maybe that they weren't, they didn't have all the information, or that they were being controlled by somebody. I recently went through a situation where I had to deal with a narcissist. And, in hindsight, I see how I did all these wrong things. Like, they used to do this thing where instead of getting their hands dirty, they would wind me up and then I'd mouth off to protect them because I thought that's what I was doing was a good thing. And I used to be like their enforcer, their little bulldog. And they would wind me up and set me loose. And then their hands are clean, but I ended up losing all these friendships and relationships and things. Like, I would end up I was defending stuff that I don't actually believe in. And that's what they did. Like, and in hindsight, I see that was bad. Like, that was wrong of me to be offensive to certain people. And it was wrong of me to attack those people. And I would be like, oh, well, it's just them. It's not me. But, like, at some point, like, I was the one that was doing it. So it'd be easy for me to say that all the people are beyond redemption and that they're the other and they're the bad. And now I know better and they don't know. But, maybe, I don't know. I kind of like the idea that if people are given the opportunity, they'll do good. Maybe that's kind of sticks in my mouth right now. because I clearly see that certain things are not good. And, I don't know. It's very complicated when you try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and hope that maybe they have a way. It's like when dealing with people who are convicts. Are they guilty and beyond repair? Like, are they just bad people who are evil and deserving of whatever bad stuff happens? Or are they able to be rehabilitated? Because there's two different ways of thinking, like some people, I don't know, they'll just never change. And then other people, I think that, given the opportunity, and they can become better. An example of this is kind of like when my brother was away from us, he kind of had developed some tics that were a little bit not like I didn't like them. And when he was able to go to school and learn and kind of take time to actually spend on himself and his education, he actually turned around on a lot of things that he used to believe and was much more like he had his eyes open to certain things. Anna says, yes, and being trusting should not be a bad thing. And then Laura says, the gas thing makes me crazy. Why don't people understand no one was going to work? Low gas with supply demand situation. And I think also the thing is that I looked up how much the gas was. It was not that much cheaper. And if we look at pandemic, then yeah, sure, it was like a dollar because nobody was driving. But also, did you need the gas thing when you couldn't leave your house? But I also remember it being not that much cheaper when things were like regular. So I don't know. I also remember how much I had to pay in taxes when certain people were in office, and it was much more than I pay now. So, yeah. People talk about how much cheaper stuff was. And I was like, I think you're confused. It is something to be said though. Like inflation is real. Like prices on certain things have gone up, but there's it's a much more complicated situation. But some people use that. They told me, they said, you know what, my cheap gas, which wasn't that much cheap to begin with, is why I can't support your equal rights. And you know what? That's where you have to take people where they are. I'm not going to be able to change them. Nothing I say or do is going to be able to change their mind if that's what they really believe. They have to have at some point some monochrome ability to see that they're wrong in their decision to be able to make a change. But some people, they just think that that's the way. And it says some of that is pure greed when CEOs are banking millions more each year. Sanders says, I think so. People's memories are terrible. You can't change their mind. All I can do is live my life and be an example for that which I believe in.
How's it going?
Um,
Getting deep in here?
Maybe. I'm probably talking too much politics, but
you're getting deep in here.
Oh well.
How many people are watching with you?
9.
9.
So maybe more on Instagram. Oh, you were watching.
I was watching.
Oh, Wyatt was watching. Hi, Wyatt. I don't think you're watching anymore. But Wyatt was at the Peters Valley and was really great. I enjoyed meeting him. He was that belt buckle guy on Instagram.
Go follow.
Yeah, go follow him. He's good, people. But anyway, so I don't know what I was talking about.
I broke your concentration.
Oh wow. Probably has a run in my mouth.
Oh no, that's smoke. Did you find a big thing of clear?
No, I did not. But that's the thing, is we're all works in progress, I think. And I believe in the power of change, and that, I may not agree with every, I don't know. I want to be treated with the same respect that was afforded to others. So I don't know. It's kind of a weird thing. Like, there are certain things that I can't condone. And I think most people shouldn't condone. But I don't know. We live in a very different time, in the sense that some people believe bad is good and good is bad. It's the upside down. And what I think should be deal breakers about certain things are not deal breakers to other people. I think mocking people with disabilities, deal breaker. If you do that and you continue to do that and you don't seek change and you're just going to keep doing it, then that generally says that they don't see that as being a problem. So if they don't see it as a problem, they're not going to see it that they have to change. And I think that some people want that. They want to feel emboldened to be mean. They want to feel like they don't want to feel bad about their actions. And so when they see somebody being nasty, then they say, "Oh, I can be nasty too then." And I've seen it happen. It's only been a day. Like, this is not even a full day after the election, and I saw people who were supposedly love somebody, care about somebody, be nasty to them. And then I'm just like, this is like, when you get the example of that this is okay behavior. And so then they do. And then we wonder why there's people act the way they do, because it feels good. It feels good to have no repercussions. You can do whatever you want. Sanders says, I had to unfriend a few people tonight. It is what it is. Susan says, getting tired, so see everyone tomorrow who is Zooming. Good night, everyone. Vicky says, I may be alone here, but the people who are marginalized shouldn't be doing the heavy lifting. They have the most to lose. It's just that Vicky said, we who can speak from the vantage point of privilege need to speak up clearly and loudly. Laura says, then Biden had to fill it up after he was in office. And Anna says, exactly, Vicky. I, as a middle-aged white straight woman, feel like I need to be loud about supporting those who are marginalized. Yep. Well, I can't. Sanders says, what time is the Zoom? Where do we get the link? I think William is posting it into the design challenge group. And I think he's also going to send it out in an email. We don't post too much in advance because then you get spammers and stuff. So that is why there's that. But I'll ask him to post again if people are having a hard time finding it. And the time is 7:30 p.m. And that's where we're at. All right. I see a bunch of folks are fading, and we're coming up on the 3-hour mark. And so I just wanted to say thank you to everybody who has tuned in and spent a little time with me. I know some people have said that they appreciate having this space for them, but I also appreciate to have this space because, I think it's important to be able to have that. And Anna says, I'm really impressed how much you accomplish on this bracelet off to sleep. So I think on that note, we're all gonna tune off for the night. But thank you so much to everybody out there. We appreciate and care for you, and wish you all well. Sometimes we will disagree and we're not going to all agree all the time. And I think that's okay. We can have differences of opinion and still move forward and learn from each other, as long as there's mutual respect and common faith and belief and an openness and willingness to have hard conversations. For me, I'm one of those people who I was raised to push down any kind of discomfort. And I realized that, as I've had these hard conversations lately, that has crept up a lot where I don't necessarily have as open conversations as I could about certain things because I still have a problem with it. It's something that still affects me. But at the same time, I feel very fortunate to have a community where I can talk about things and not feel, not be worried because there are a lot of places where you can't say certain things because if you say them, you'll get in trouble and people will boycott your business or, they'll call you names or, fight you or whatever. I don't know. The threat of physical violence is never an impossibility in this day and age. And so there's a lot of times when I err on the side of caution and don't always say the things that I probably should. But at the same time, I feel very lucky that I have what I do have. So thank you all for being out there and for taking the time that you have taken. And hopefully, this was beneficial for you as it was for me. And I think about this, and like when I see this, I'll think about this time period and how, there is this promise of a better day, there's this promise of a better tomorrow, and that, if we stick together and we work together, we're capable of great things. And if we come from a place of love and positivity and abundance and possibility, we can magnify and amplify that. And I just have to believe that love is stronger than hate, and that if we believe in that together, we'll be better for it. I've never seen a place throughout time or history where the benefit of hate was a good thing. Like there was never a time when being hateful towards somebody was the answer. It's always been love at the end of the day that has come in and changed things for the better. So I just have to believe in that. And I know maybe that sounds naive, and maybe that sounds like I don't know what's what, but that's what it kind of boils down to for me, is that there is this message of love, and it's not romantic love necessarily, or even platonic love, but just a general feeling of possibility, I guess, in the sense that love is possibility. It opens the doors. So, to all of you out there, thank you so much and have a good night. See ya.